I'm thrilled to be here today with one of my longtime friends and colleagues and a newly named firm leader, David Singh. David has recently been named co-head of the firm's market-leading complex commercial litigation practice, and he's resident out in our Silicon Valley office. Thank you so much for coming to New York for this discussion today.
Thank you for having me, Barry. I'm super excited.
I am as well. I'd like to start by asking you to tell me a little bit about your journey as a lawyer. I know you started out in our New York office and migrated out to the West Coast. I'd love to hear a little bit about your trajectory at the firm.
So I'm a true Weil lifer. I've been at the firm for over 20 years, and I started my career in New York, as you said. And my early experiences at the firm really set in path my trajectory. I started out working on product liability and complex commercial litigation matters, but I had a really heavy dose of class action experience as a young associate. And I loved it from the very beginning. I loved the procedural complexness. I loved the strategic decision making. And I really leaned into that work and sought out more of it. So I tried to work on as many class actions as I could. I spoke and wrote on class actions a lot. And eventually there was a big inflection point in my career where the department leaders asked me when I was a senior associate if I'd be willing to pick up and move to California to help anchor and build out our California litigation practice.
I remember it well.
And it was a big decision for me. I'd never even been to the Bay Area. And I was asked to go visit. I flew out. I think I flew out over a weekend and came back on a Tuesday with a decision. But it ended up being one of the best decisions of my career. The opportunity in big law to build something really from the ground up. And it really accelerated my career in that I was forced to hustle. I was forced to build client relationships on my own. And it also accelerated my position on cases. Whereas I would have been like the second or third lawyer on a pleading, I immediately became the client contact on a lot of matters. So that's been my path at the firm. I do a lot of class actions now and have been lucky to have a robust practice in that.
It's interesting you say that since, as you know, I started out as a tax lawyer and was asked to move over to the corporate department. I didn't ask to get moved to a different office, but to a different department, and it did the same thing for my career as well. As someone who has spent time on both coasts and truly have a national practice, what are some thematic things that you have been seeing across the CCL practice? What should clients be thinking about in 2026 from a litigation perspective?
Well, I'll start with a couple of macro points, which are, one, I think clients should expect that their litigation dockets are going to get bigger. I think the cost of entry for plaintiff firms to file cases, both because of the proliferation of litigation finance and because AI makes it a lot easier to research and draft and file a complaint. We're just going to see more and more litigation filed. I also think you're going to see more trials, cases going further, reaching trials or settlement, in part because courts have now cleared some of the congestion on their docket from COVID. And the trial dates that were getting continued are now proceeding as firm dates. So clients will have decisions to make in terms of whether to settle or to try the case.
Well, that's an interesting commercial outlook on the practice. Given what you are seeing in the market, what do you and Greg see as the growth and future of CCL over the next several years?
Well, I'd say a couple of things here. I think areas that are going to be really hot in the next couple of years, ESG litigation has taken off. We're seeing a lot of greenwashing litigation brought by the private plaintiff bar as well as state AGs. We're seeing the state AGs try to fill the void with the lack of federal enforcement action. We're seeing a lot of activity by state AGs in terms of bringing more cases. And lastly, I would say privacy and technology litigation has been proliferating, and we anticipate that it will continue to proliferate.
Well, the litigation narrative over the last year or so has been awesome to see, and I look forward to seeing where you and Greg and the department leaders take things next. Now that we've talked about the department, I'm curious, how are you as a newer leader looking to shape the next generation at Weil, and how would you describe your own leadership style?
Well, First of all, just thinking back on my own career at Weil, I've been blessed to have such an extraordinary set of experiences at the firm, and I feel an obligation to pay it forward and make sure that the next generation gets the same sort of experience and growth opportunities that I had, which means that we have to find opportunities for people on the team to play a meaningful role, an opportunity to involve them in the strategic decision-making on cases, and to make sure that they're not just seeing the decision that we make, but that they understand why we make the decision so that they could build the judgment that they need as a litigator. In terms of leadership style, I would say that I try to be transparent, collaborative, and I'm very invested in the people on my teams.
Well, that's really good to hear and consistent with everything I hear from people on your teams. I'm curious, as someone who, like me, is a lifer at the firm, if you were giving someone the elevator speech on why Weil, what would be the pitch?
I would first tell them that I came to Weil because of its market-leading reputation across litigation, and Weil has more than lived up to that reputation. But what's made me stay more than 2 decades is the people and the culture. We spend so much time in this profession on our jobs, and to me, Weil's like a second family, and some of my closest friends and my mentors are my partners.
Well, I love that you use the word family because it's something that I oftentimes use and think of the firm and why I've spent more than 4 decades here. So I'd like to round out today's conversation by asking you something a little bit more open-ended, which is, who is a leader outside of the legal industry that you admire and why?
Well, I like sports a lot, and I would use a sports leader. I liked the Chicago Bulls in the 1990s. I'm going to go with Phil Jackson. And the reason I would go with Phil Jackson is that not only did he win 11 championships, which I think speaks for itself, but he had to manage giant egos and superstars on his teams. And he was able to convince people like Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant to think about the bigger collective of the team and not just about themselves, which I think is something that all leaders in competitive environments have to learn to manage the personalities in their group.
And he played for the New York Knicks, but who's saying it? We're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to ask you just a series of questions, and what comes to top of mind, just let me have it.
Sure.
How do you like to start each day?
I have an 8-year-old son, and I love talking to him and playing with him in the morning.
What's your favorite snack?
So my parents were born in Guyana, South America, and we grew up eating a lot of Indo-Caribbean food. And my favorite snack out of all the foods I grew up eating is something called palauri. It's a fried fritter made with flour and ground split peas. And
well, you're going to have to bring one for me one day.
It's not healthy.
Talking about health, what's your go-to health wellness activity after you eat this?
I would say we love hiking as a family. There's a lot of great trails in the Bay Area, and we hike a lot, and I like throwing a football with my son.
What's the last movie you watched on a plane?
Don't judge, but I last watched Top Gun Maverick, and it was pretty good.
What was your favorite subject in high school?
Competitive speech and debate.
Well, there you were as a lawyer. What's your peak time of day?
The evening, because we're on the West Coast, and for a lot of the day we're playing catch up to our emails and the like. The evening's an opportunity where I can catch up with everything and prepare for the day ahead.
Name a habit or attribute that drives your friends and loved ones crazy.
Not turning off the litigation switch. When you're in your ordinary life and you start litigating everyday issues, you got to turn that off.
What's the last TV show that you binge watched?
I'm the only person in the world who had not watched The Sopranos, and I'm binge watching it now.
Okay. Name an upcoming vacation or trip you're looking forward to.
My wife and I just had our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're planning a trip to Japan.
Awesome. What word would an associate on one of your matters use to describe you?
I think this is cheating because I'm going to use 2 words, but I would say relentlessly prepared.
Well, 2 words is okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your coming, and it's been terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.